Welcome along, everyone. So today what we're going to be talking about is podcast. So specifically, we're going to talk about a tool which is called Adobe Podcast. Um, so let me just give you a quick look at the agenda there. So we're going to talk a little bit in general terms about podcasting. And the kind of pros and cons of podcasting and all the different things that you can do with it, especially in an education setting. Of course, the main thing that we're here for is just to see this tool. So I'm going to be giving you a demo of Adobe Podcast and the different features that it has. And we'll also have a section where I'll show you how you can kind of market your podcast as well. So how you can easily make graphics, social media adverts, or a cover for your podcast as well. So what's the advantages of podcasting in an educational context? Well, I think there's lots of different ways in which people can use podcasting. I think first of all is it's a great way to encourage active listening. So if you're presenting your material, whether that's a class material, for example, or whether that's maybe an assessment or something that you've created for your class as well, it's engages the mind and it focuses attention. So it really does encourage active listening. I think it's just that element of it just being audio, essentially, and not having any distractions, not having other things that might distract you away from the subject. It's obviously very flexible as well. So, you can imagine if you have got a recordings of lectures, or if you've got a specific subject that you want to learn about, then, you can do that anywhere. You can do it on the tube in the morning. You can do it when you're making your dinner. You can do it anytime, anywhere. That element of collaboration, I think, as well, is in there with podcasts too. So obviously, typical podcast often will have multiple people who are presenting, or they may have guests. Sometimes that it takes the form of debate and discussion as well, and gives that opportunity for analysis of the subject matter. And I think it's an engaging medium as well. So you can use the storytelling techniques within podcasts, and that kind of conversational style that can really help engage learners or engage listeners or people who are interested in the subject that you're talking about. So what does Adobe Podcast as an application do? So Adobe Podcast is an online application. It's got a number of technical features in there, which are really designed to make it quick and easy to create podcasts. Now, I will say it's not the only tool that you can use to create podcasts, and you can in fact combine these tools. So there's another tool called Adobe Audition, which is, in a way, it's a more fully featured tool, but it's also a kind of traditional desktop tool with a timeline, with multiple channels. You could do a lot with it, but it does have a bit more of a learning curve involved. Whereas with Adobe Podcast, it's really, you can get up and running really quickly with it. So you can enhance your speech. It's built-in AI tools which will improve how your recording sounds. You can analyze your recording setup. Again, it uses AI to do that. And I think really the one that really blows my mind is the ability to edit your audio like it was a document. So I'm going to be showing you all of this stuff, and I'm going to be laying it out for you. Basically, it will transcribe your document, whatever you've recorded. And when you edit the text in the document, that also edits the audio in the document as well. It's just asking me if I want to carry on there. I am still going, yes. Audio as well. So in terms of music, so there is a built-in copyright-free music that you can use. So you have intro music, you have outro music, you've got transition music to transition between different elements in your podcast, and you've got that kind of background bed music as well. And I think one of the things about podcast is that having less focus on the tech elements of it means that it's more accessible, and it opens up podcasting to everyone. And there was a quote there from one of the from a UK university who gave us some feedback a little while ago on Adobe Podcasts, and they said they're finding the whole process of recording and editing a podcast to be 10 times quicker, and finding they can focus more on the narrative, the structure, and the content, and way less on the technical aspects. So I think that's all really interesting. But the best thing, of course, is to actually have a look at the tool. If you want to try it yourself, I would love you to do that. Open up the tool and have a look. So that's the link there. So of course, Goldsmiths is a creative campus. So that means that you have access to all of the Adobe tools, all of the tools in the Creative Cloud, and you've got access to Adobe Podcast as well. I think Jasmine's going to pop that link into the chat as well, so that you can get that link to link in directly if you want to do that. And there's also a little QR code there as well. So with that said, I'm going to launch Adobe Podcast, and we can have a look. So let me come over to the actual podcast tool here. So let me just go back to the homepage here. So let's go through those features that we have in podcast. So first of all, we'll have a bit of a tour of the front page here. So it's telling me how much I've recorded. It's giving me the opportunity to begin a brand new project if I want to do that. Up here we have menus where we have access to enhanced speech, to do the microphone check, and into the studio to do recording, editing, and enhancing. Other things we have down here. So here's all the podcasts and different projects that I've been working on. So I can easily go back into any of them to have a look. We also have what we call audio templates in there as well. So that's really cool, and I think one of the good things about it is that it really gives you an idea how to, where you can start with it basically. So it gives you a kind of a model of a podcast that you can use as the basis for your own. And we've got our hand speech and mic check, additional links in there for that as well. Now, I would say that you guys should have full premium access to this. So you should have access to all of the features within Adobe Podcast. We've also got some graphics templates down here too. So we'll be having a look at those. So that's just because, of course, if you've got a podcast, you need to let people know about it. And this is a way to build social media posts to have a kind of cover page for your podcast that might go on some of the podcasting services as well. Okay, so let's get started looking at some of the features that we've got in here. So enhanced speech, first of all. I'm going to click on this. Now, with enhanced speech, this is basically going to give us the ability to upload a recording that we've made and enhance the speech on it. So one thing I'm going to need to do actually is in order for you guys to be able to hear this, I'm going to have to go and make sure I'm sharing this with the audio. So let me just pop back in here and I'll stop sharing and I'm going to reshare, but this time I'm going to include my audio. There we go. So now when I press play here, you should be able to hear it. So I've got two options in here. These are actually two files I've already uploaded, but I could just drag and drop a file onto there, or I could browse for a file too. But I've got here a WAV file. So this is just a previous podcast that I recorded. But you can also drag and drop video on here. So this is really interesting. If you have a video you've recorded, you can use Adobe Podcast to enhance the audio. So I'm going to turn off the enhance feature. I'm going to play this.
Hello. Today I want to talk about recruiting international students at UK universities.
So that is without the enhancement. Now let me just drag back there. Now I'll just check. Could you hear that, Jasmine? Can you confirm if you were able to hear that?
Yes, I was able to hear.
Perfect, good. So I'll just drag back, and this time I'll turn the enhancement on. See how that sounds now.
Hello. Today I want to talk about recruiting international students at UK universities. So let's get started.
So that's quite a significant improvement, I would say. So that was, for me, that's a noticeable improvement on the unenhanced version there. So that's a really simple tool. Again, there's not much to it. There's simply a button that you click, and it will use AI to automatically enhance the audio. So really simple, nothing difficult about it. Once you've done that, got your enhanced audio, you can download that from there. And that would start to download that enhanced file. And you'll see it's just bringing it down there as an MP4. Because of course this is a video and it's an MP4. You can, if it's a WAV file, you can download that as a WAV file. So that's actually really good, because if you've got that WAV file, then you can open that up in other tools. So you might want to do a little bit more finessing on your file and open it up in a tool like Adobe Audition, and you can do that. It's giving you the WAV file that allows you to do that, and I'll maybe show you a little bit of that later as well. So that's it really for enhanced speech. It's a very straightforward feature. Come back to the homepage here of the podcast. What else do we have here? So we've got the ability to do a mic check. So again, pretty simple feature. I can just click on Start here, and it allows me to test my mic. So I can just click Test Mic. How is my microphone setup and placement? Press Stop. It's going to analyze that, and it's going to give me a few hints about what I can do. So it says my distance to microphone is good. Gain, that's where there's an issue. Background noise is good. Echo is good. And so it's suggesting that I physically adjust the gain on my microphone. So a lot of microphones that you can buy for podcasting do have gain switches on it where you can easily change it. Today, on this occasion, I'm actually just using my laptop microphone, so it's a little bit different, probably why the gain is not so good in that occasion. So again, it's just giving you some quick indications of how to do that mic setup, so that's really useful. Come back again. But the main thing here really is looking at the studio part. So it's how we can create new features, new podcasts and recordings with the studio. So let me click into Go to Studio. And again, let's see what we have here. So we've got all the files that we previously worked on. Up here, I can click on New Project to begin a brand new project. So maybe I'll just start with that. So let me go to my brand new project, click on New Project here, and it's going to open it up, and I can literally start recording in there. Now, already you can see some of the features that you've got. So you can, upload things you've already recorded. You can add music. You can add a placeholder. I'll take you through some of these features, and you've got your audio filters again. So I'm going to record just the first paragraph of a podcast to show you today. So click on record. Nature in the City, a podcast about London's green spaces. Welcome to Nature in the City, a podcast that explores the hidden gems of London's natural environment. I'm Alistair Black, and I'm passionate about finding and sharing the beauty and diversity of nature in one of the world's most vibrant and dynamic cities. I'm going to stop recording there. Now, I did put some deliberate ums and ahs in there, and I'll show you why. So you'll see that this is now beginning to take this recording in. It's starting to analyze it, and we should be getting our transcript of that recording coming through. Now, the reason why I included some of those ums and ahs wasn't just that I would probably do that anyway, but is in order to demonstrate some of this. And didn't really get my name quite right there. I'm saying I'm Melissa Block, which is not quite right. So I'm going to edit that as well. And so I can go in there and I can correct that. So I can just make some edits there. There we go. And I can change, maybe I should change my name to Melissa Block, actually. That's quite a good name. There we go. So I've got my recording here. I can go in here and I can play it back. So let's see how that sounds. Nature in the City, a podcast about London's green spaces. Welcome to Nature in the City. So there we go. A few mistakes in there. Doesn't sound particularly fantastic. So the first thing that we can do is go to the filters and we can enhance the speech. So I'm just going to turn that on. Let's see if that sounds any better.
Nature in the City, podcast about London's green space.
That sounds a lot better. So that's already done a really, really good improvement on that. Now, the next thing I need to do is I need to deal with some of these ums and ahs. So let me just identify where these are. I've already got I double this up. So come back here. I'll just play this section again.
About London's green spaces. Welcome to...
So there's a couple of things. I need to take this word out. I'm just going to select the word. I'm going to click delete. And the word is gone. Okay, what does that do to the recording? Come back to the beginning.
Nature in the City, podcast about London's green spaces.
And that doubling up of the word there has just been deleted. So I edited the text, and that has edited the audio. So that's taken that that extraneous word that I didn't want, and it's taken it out of the audio. So let's have another example. Take it back to the beginning here or halfway through.
London's green spaces. Welcome to Nature in the...
Okay, so there's an If I select this period here and I just press on delete, and again, that's deleted that. So let's see if it's taken my out there.
London's green spaces. Welcome to Nature in the City, podcast that explores the hidden...
Yep, and I've got another one here. It's also, I need to correct the spelling of that word. You don't really need to correct the spelling, but if you do want to use this as a transcript, it'd be useful. So just correct that there. My was there. Press delete there. Let's try again from the beginning.
Nature in the City, podcast about London's green spaces. Welcome to Nature in the City, podcast that explores the hidden...
So there we go. So it's got rid of those ums and ahs. It's got rid of that word that I kind of stumbled over. All these things that you will really do in real life when you try recording something. And I've done it simply by taking this text, this transcript that has been the AI in Adobe Podcast has automatically created. And I was able to delete the words, delete the ums and ahs, and that has changed the audio. So you don't have to go in and slice up your audio in Audition. You can simply delete those words in there to edit that. So yeah, I mean, I think that's a really useful feature for getting up and running really quickly with your podcast. Now, there's a number of other features in here as well. So let's have a look at some of these. So first of all, we've seen the enhanced speech. So we've seen how that improves the speech in there. What else do we have in here? So we've got these placeholders. Now, what is the purpose of that? It's a bit like, I don't know if anybody here is like a computer programmer and you add remarks when you're writing your code. They're just little notes to yourself. They're little notes where you just telling you to do something or reminding you about something. So, for example, if I go to the end here, add a placeholder, and it could be something like, let me see, remind listeners where to subscribe, for example. So maybe I've got a little advert that I've created to tell people to subscribe, and that just gives me a prompt to tell me to drop that in. But you could use that for a whole lot of different varieties. In fact, when we look at some of these templates that exist, you'll see some of the examples in there as well. Now, so the placeholder, quite a useful little feature there. What about the music? So come over to the music here, and you've got a whole lot of different options for music. And this music is copyright free. So it's really simple to add that on and to do that in a copyright free way. So I can, like, what would be a good one for a thing about nature in the city? So I think I'm going to try Fog and Mist. That might be a good one. So here's some different intros. You've got low energy. that sounds okay. What about high? Okay, maybe a high energy might be a better one to use. So if I come in here, I'm going to add some music. Click on the plus sign, and that's adding in that intro to my podcast. Now, what else can you do? You've got an outro, you've got a transition, and you've got an underscore. So underscore, so this is like a bed that you might have for your recording. So it's a lower volume, and it's going to go underneath the main text that you are the narrative that you're saying. So try this one. Sounds okay. I'll just pop that in there. And if you look at these ellipses here, and you can say set as background. So I think it was this top one here. So let me just say set as background, and you can fade them in and you can fade them out. I think I would actually need to drag this one below, move it down. That's fine. If I go back to, in fact, I'll leave that there for now. So as you can see with the music, what you can do is, there's a lot of different elements. So here you can add your intro, you can add your outro. You've got transitions. So why would you use transitions? So that might be between, like, if you have different guests that you're interviewing, you might have a transition in between them. If you're talking about different subjects, you might have a transition in between them as well. Now, of course, if you have a podcast, it's not very interesting if it's just you droning on a bit like I am doing just now. It's much more interesting if you can collaborate and if you can get other people to get involved as well, and invite your guests on and record what they do. So I'm just going to do a quick example of that. When I go up to invite guests, I'm just going to invite my colleague here. There we are. I'm going to click invite, and I'm going to invite my colleague Jasmine to see if she can join in, and we'll just do a short recording again. Get this to the end. Let me know how you're getting on with that, Jasmine.
Well, I'm clicking on joining the session, so I will mute myself in Teams.
Okay, thank you. And there we go. You can see Jasmine starting to appear at the top, and she's now joining in the podcast. And then we'll both be on this page. And we might actually get a bit of echo. It is a problem because it's going to come out of the podcast page as well as this page too. Are you able to come in? Oh, you've been disconnected. Okay.
Well, I have the same message, so it seems like you're not connected.
Okay.
I try again.
Yeah, we'll give it another try. If that doesn't work, I can just show you where we previously recorded this without any problems. In there.
Yeah, I'm getting there, but it still seems you cannot join.
Maybe this is down to your computer problems you were having earlier, Jasmine. Yeah. Okay, so what I'll do is I will instead go to one that we prepared earlier. So let's come over, and here is, I'll just open up an example that I used before. So yeah, so here's the kind of completed version of this podcast. You'll see it's a bit more fully featured, and I brought Jasmine in here. So let me just illustrate what that sounds like. I'll just play a bit of an excerpt.
Hi, so we're now going to have a guest on the show, and that guest is Jasmine. Jasmine lives in the city of Zurich, and she's going to tell us a little bit about nature in that city. Jasmine, could you tell us a bit about nature in the city of Zurich?
Hi, Alyssa. Thanks for having me, of course. Zurich is a city that offers a unique blend of urban life and natural beauty because the city is situated in the banks of the Limerick River and the Lake Zurich. We are surrounded.
So you can see there how that works. So I've invited Jasmine as a guest, and she's been able to basically, join in the same recording as me. And just like any other podcast, we can collaborate on that. I can record what she's saying, and it's identifying. So you'll see in here that the Adobe Podcast is able to identify who is talking at which different section as well, which is also really useful. We have all our music in there. We have our intro. We have our outro as well. That's great. So if I come back to our kind of homepage here, and one of the things that I did mention was these templates for audio that you have in Adobe Podcast. So here's some examples of audio templates. So let me open this one up. It's called the Deep Space Podcast. And it's going to say, do I want to create a new project from that template? So when I open this up, then I can claim this as my project, if you like, and I can start to edit it and change it. And really what it's doing here is it's just giving you a description of the way that this podcast is structured. So we can see they've got a placeholder here, which is just giving you some hints as to things that you can do. We've got our intro music. We've got our opening text there, and we've got our transition music in there as well. So I could go in there and I could edit this. So I could delete the music if I want. I could delete what we have in there. So I could just go into here and for example, I can select the whole thing. Oops. Let me just escape out of that. So what to do? Oops. There we go. So I could go in there and I could start deleting sections out of there if I wanted to do that. And I could put my own information in if I want. But I think really the purpose of those templates is that it kind of gives you a good idea of the structure, but where to put your music, where to put your transitions, and how that works. Okay, so I'll pause there actually, and I'll just see if there's any questions that anyone has before we move on to the kind of marketing and how you can start to build out your covers and things like that for the podcast. So just stop. I'll just see if we have any information, any questions. Over to the chat. Okay, so we've got a couple of questions coming in. Yeah, it's quite a few actually. Okay. Does Audio Podcast allow you to have the videos you upload to be used with your new edited audio, like with the first video? And if so, can the transcript be used as captions embedded into the video? Oh, this is a good question. So, yeah, so if I take that example of the video that I uploaded, so what I can do there is, yes, exactly. So once I've edited that audio, so if I've enhanced the speech in that audio, so what that's allowing me to do is enhance the speech in that audio. So that's the function it has just now. So it's not, it's a little bit different to bringing in the whole transcript, I would say. You can then download that audio as an MP, that enhanced audio, as an MP4. So I've got my video, the audio's been enhanced. I can then download it and I will have the enhanced audio in there. What I would say is there's other tools that can definitely bring those captions in. In fact, I can show you some of that in Adobe Express. So for example, Adobe Express will do that. It will caption a video for you. And you could then upload. In fact, I could try that out. I could upload that enhanced audio and add captions to it, so I can show you that. You can also do that in Adobe Premiere as well. We've got, can you add a word? Can you add a word? Could AI generate? Oh, can you add a word? Ah, yeah. No, currently it doesn't have that feature to add a word in there. So not at the moment is the answer to that. Oh, that's a good question. Okay, Ash, if you recorded audio in 2 different spaces at different times, Ishni, yes, you do have access to Adobe Premium. You absolutely should have access to all of those features. Just make sure you're logging in with your Goldsmiths credentials. Sorry, come back to Ash's question. If you recorded audio in two different spaces at different times with different levels of reverb, echo, etc., yeah, would audio enhance make them sound more standard? I see what you mean. So they sounded like they were recorded in the same time in the same space. I don't think you could guarantee that that they would both sound exactly the same. I mean, I think one thing that it does do really well is that removal of the background noise. I know Chris who's on was I think Chris, you were talking about you did a recording out in the street, and you were kind of yelling because of the background noise, and when you when you enhanced that audio, it was just you yelling because there was no background noise anymore. So it is good at doing things like that, like taking out background noise, adjusting the things like the reverb and the echo, so they would sound more similar. Would they sound identical? Not necessarily identical. So it would kind of depend how close they were in the first place, I think. But yeah, I mean, it's probably something to kind of try out. Okay, so do let me know if there's any other questions. Feel free to drop those into the chat. Otherwise, I'm going to show you some of the ways that you can enhance this, and I'll show you that caption feature as well. So as well as having audio templates, we've got graphics templates down there. So if I click on more templates, then that is going to open up a whole load of different podcast cover templates. Now, the good thing about these templates is you can edit them. You can edit every single thing in them. So if you see one where you like the layout, but it's a totally different subject, you want to change the picture, you want to change the title, you want to change the colors, you can do that. You can change all of those elements in there. You can see it's allowing you to kind of finesse that a little bit, so you can look for a crime podcast cover, a logo cover, all different ways to do that. Give you a little example. I'll just open up the first one here. And it's going to open that up. It's going to start to build that out there. So if I select this person here, I can replace the person. Come over here where I've got my replace image, just click on replace. And I could upload a photo of myself if I wanted to do that, or I could just find a photo. So in fact, I'm going to look for a microphone. Oops, microphone. There we go. There's a microphone. Select my microphone. The microphone's come in there. And I could also remove the background from that as well. Oops, it's giving me my person there, so I probably need to delete that part of it. Oops, that part of it. See over here, you've got all your layers. So if you select the right layer, you can just bring in the image that you want. And I can edit the text as well. So I can go in there and I could say nature, for example. So very easy to change that. You'll see I've got my background color there. I could change the background color. Just make that red if I wanted. So very easy to take these templates and change them. You can make your own template though, and you can make your own template using generative AI. So we've got Gen AI here, text to image, generative fill, text effects, but we have got text to template. So I could say create a cover page for a podcast about nature in the city. Let's see what this gives me. Click and generate. If anybody would like me, I don't know if anybody out there has got a podcast just now, or if there's something that you are working on. If anybody does and they would like me to try out seeing what I could get text template to generate, do pop it into the chat. I'd be happy to try that out just to see, or if you want to suggest any prompts, feel free to do so. So it's generating my text here, and here we have them. So we've got this one here. That one's quite nice. That one's there. Which one do I like? This is quite good. It's got the trees and it's got a tower block. Quite like that. That one's quite colourful though, but it looks more like a market. So I might go for this one. I'm going to select this one here, and this is just been completely created from scratch. It's taken lots of different elements from different places. It's looked for images. It's looked for text. It's chosen an appropriate font and kind of color palette for it, and it's brought this in. So there's my completely generated from scratch template. Yes, those are all royalty-free images. Can you upload a photo into AI and ask it to work from that? If you go into in Express, not really, but if you go into Adobe Firefly, which you'd also have access to, Phoebe, yes, you can use an image as a kind of basis, not to amend the image, but as a kind of hint, if you like, is to set a mood or set a tone for a particular image. So if you have a look at Adobe Firefly, it's another online service, then it does have, that's the feature that it has. But yeah, you can, for the Gen AI, you can just use your text prompts in there. Yeah, and the thing with the Adobe Generative AI is it is trained on Adobe Stock. So Adobe Stock is our bank of stock images. So there's two good things about that. One is that means it's copyright free. It's not just going on the internet generally and taking other people's work. It's all things that creators have been paid for by Adobe. And the second good thing is those creators are compensated for that as well. So it's a more ethical approach to generative AI. So I'm going to go in here and I'm just going to edit this, nature in the city. There we go. And I can edit any of that. I could edit the image. I could edit any of the text in there. Once I was happy with it, I could just download it. I could download it as an image file format or as a PDF. I can also share that. And I can share it in there. I could collaborate on it. So if I had multiple collaborators on the podcast, just like I did with the podcast, I could invite someone to collaborate on it. Click in there. I'll just invite Jasmine again. She is. Please amend. There we go. Invite her to edit that. Now she also has access to that, and she's got edit access, but I could change that to just comment access, or I could remove her. And I could add multiple collaborators on here. So you could have a whole team of people working on this. I could publish this to the web. I could schedule this to go out to social media. So you would do this by adding in your social media channels in there and then scheduling the time that you want that to be published. Or I could just publish it out directly to social media straight away. Oh, Jasmine's in there now, and I can see she's selecting that text in there, and she's changing the color. Oh, that does look better, Jasmine. Good job. I like that. And she's making a few different changes in there. So you can see how this is all live. It's all real-time editing. We're both in this document, and we're both working on this document. So that's great. Okay. Couple of other things then I'll show you. What if you didn't want to use text to template and you just wanted to start from scratch? So let's try that. I'm just going to go back to the home page here. I am going to click on this blue plus sign here, this blue plus sign. If you ever want to do anything in Adobe Express, then you just click on that plus sign and type in what you want to do. For example, if you want to make a web page, it's going to find the web page, web banner. But I'm going to do a podcast cover. So I'm just going to type in podcast cover. And oh, look, it's giving me it's giving me the dimensions for my podcast cover. But in this one, I'm not starting from a template. I'm going to just do this from scratch. Now, I could, of course, upload my own photo to use that as a basis and just add in text, add in colors, add in other elements. Or I could search into Adobe Stock to find another photo. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to come down to these textures down here. I'm going to set one of these textures just to be the background. Some of these look pretty good, actually, for nature. Why don't I choose this one here? Now, I've got that in there, but it's not really fitting. So what I'm going to do about that, I'm going to select that there. You come over here, you'll see that there's an option that says set as page background. I'm going to click that set as page background, and that's automatically fitted that into the right dimensions for me. So what do I want to put in there? So, you know, I could use generative fill to select an area and it would draw that in for me. But instead, I'm going to go down to find, just to show you some other things you can do. I'm going to click on elements down the side. This is giving me some like vector elements that I could use in there. That's a nice frame I could use, for example. I'm going to look for a microphone. Okay, I've got some different microphones here. Which one do I like the best? That kind of looks a bit more like a podcast microphone. That's coming there. I can then resize that microphone if I wanted. So there's my microphone there. It looks a bit gothic, I must admit, but you can see the idea. If I click on to add my text, I'm going to click into add my text in here. And I'm just going to type in the name of my podcast. Nature in the City. Move this up here. This doesn't look that great. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make some changes. So over here on the text element here, I could change everything. So I could change the font that I'm using. It's going to give me a few suggestions. That one's probably a little bit better. I can change the size. I can do all these different effects on it. I can change the color of the font as well. So if I didn't want it to be black like that, I could change the color too. But I'm going to come down here to shape, click on there, and I'm going to just select a shape in here. I could have it like that. I could have it like that. Have it like that. Yellow looks a bit odd, so I can change the color of that as well. Here, change shape fill. Come down to my, oops, now I've got brand colors. You can actually have a brand in here. So you know, you're always using the same color. So if you had a podcast and you always wanted to make sure you use the same logos, colors, etc., you can create a brand and always draw on those same colors every time. Let me just choose, I'll just choose that color for now. So I've got Nature in the City. So that's quite fine for a sort of static one. What if I wanted to animate that a little bit? I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. There we go. There. Now I can animate this logo as well. So I've got it selected. Come back down here in my text elements here, come into animation. I'm going to choose animate it so when it comes in, but I'll choose a slide animation. I think I want to make that smooth. I could set how long I want that to go for. So now I've made a little animated video. So I can click on there, Nature in the City. So that's fine, but what if I want to add in more? Well, an easy way to do that is simply to select this one I've already created and duplicate it. So I've duplicated that. I'm going to move that down. Move this down here. Change the text in there, just select all in the text, and I'll say new episodes weekly. There we go. Might make that slightly smaller. There we go. But that's going to mean that they both come in at the same time, and I don't want that. Doesn't look that cool. So, and instead I'm going to go into this option that says show layer timing. Turn that on there. I'm going to select my Nature in the City up here, and it's appearing here in a kind of timeline. So I can say when I want this element to come in. So if I say about there, come back here, press play. There we go. Okay. I come down to this one here, and I want that to come in after. So I'm going to just drag that right out there. Come back here, press play. And that's going to come out like that. So it's just a nice little simple animated video. Something's missing from it though. The thing that's missing, I think, is music. So I'm going to add in some music. So I'm going to click on media over here. and I am going to have a search on audio. So just as there's stock for videos and photo, there's also stock for audio as well. Now, I must admit, I'm going to cheat. I'm going to look for one that I found previously, and I quite like the sound of this. Here we go. So I'm just going to drag that over there. And now my little advert has got some audio. Click on play. So that's me just done a really simple little advert. It just took me really a few minutes to do that. And again, I can download that from there. I can download that. That's an MP4, of course, because it is a video. And I could use that, say, on Instagram or something like that to advertise my podcast. Okay, so I think we've got a few more questions. Can a linked file in Adobe Express to the podcast graphics? Can it be a linked file in Adobe Express to the podcast graphics? I'm not sure I understand the question, Phoebe. Feel free to ask me if you want to unmute yourself. Can be a link.
Yeah, just was asking. I know that, for example, you can have linked files if you're using Photoshop or something.
Yeah.
The files will update, and I'm wondering, is it the same if you're working with the podcast and you design your thing there and then you go over here and you make some changes, or do they have to be separate files?
No. So they are separate files. Yeah, they're separate files. So the graphic isn't like attached as part of the podcast file. So I understand what you mean, and it kind of goes back to the previous webinar, doesn't it, where we had that Photoshop graphic that could update, dynamically in Express, which is a really cool feature. So yeah, that's not doing that here. I mean, if it was a Photoshop graphic that we were using here, then it could update from Photoshop. But yeah, between Express and Podcast, yeah, not at the moment. And your other question was, can you fade audio in and out? That is, so you can do that on Podcast, but currently in Express you can't do that. So yeah, that is on our roadmap for Express. So that's a feature that should be coming in the next few months into Express, the ability to kind of have a little more editing on the audio and fade that out. But you can fade audio in Podcast. Yeah. Okay. So let me just come back here. Okay, so yeah, that's really all that I want to show you today. So I hope that's been useful. If there's any additional questions that you have, feel free to ask. We're going to drop some. I will share a little bit more information just before we finish that I think is going to be interesting for you. So let me just come back here. This one. Here you go. Let's come back to my Adobe Express webpage, which again, another cool thing that you can make with Express. And just last couple of things that I want to talk about here is just a few things that we've got coming up that might be interesting. So that's the login for Express. Oops. Yeah. So first of all is the Digital Edge Awards. So you have the opportunity to win up to £7,000 in the Digital Edge Awards. And all you need to do is, if you have worked on if you've done any work for your course and creative work that you want to submit, then you can submit that to the Digital Edge Awards. And that could be using any app, so Adobe Express. It could be Photoshop, Illustrator, or Premiere Pro. There is also actually a specific prize for creative campuses. So Goldsmiths being one of our creative campuses, and our creative campuses, there's a £2,000 prize. You could win both prizes. You could win the main prize and the Creative Campus prize. Another thing I'd say is that there are different categories. So there's a category for arts and graphic design students, and there's a category for other students as well. So if you're doing a STEM subject, if you're doing science, if you're doing nursing, any other subject that you're covering, then you can still submit your work. In fact, we would definitely encourage you to do so. So you don't have to be a whiz with and having worked for 5 years with Adobe Illustrator or anything like that. What we really want to see is how you are using those tools in your subject and how you're using them to achieve your goals. Any questions about Digital Edge? All good. That's great. And the final thing there was just that we also have some certification available as well. So we have digital badging. So these are short courses that you can use, that you can access. And they cover a whole variety of different topics. They include podcasting, Gen AI, storytelling, a whole lot of different subjects. Those are actually marked and assessed by an independent group, independent from Adobe, and you can be issued with an Adobe certified badge that you can use on resumes, you can use in your social media profiles as well, just to illustrate that you've got those practical skills in that particular area. And each section probably takes about 20 minutes, and total courses are probably 2 to 3 hours in total. So you don't have to do it all in one go. You can just do it when it's convenient for you to do that. Okay, so I'll stop sharing there.
One question.
Yes.
Could you do the certification also still after graduation?
Yeah, so good question. You still have to, as long as you've got your Goldsmiths credentials, then you can still log in, then you can. So as long as you still got a Goldsmiths domain email address, then you're able to log into that site to do that. So yeah, that's how that works. So I'm not sure how long that is before those get deactivated. Yeah, I don't know that, but maybe someone internally knows that.